or do you avoid them at all cost? Based upon your personality, you likely have a default tendency, and either can be okay as long as our motives and intentions are controlled and good. But it does cause us to begin to think about the times in our life when these confrontational conversations are required. How do we step into them with wisdom and at least some framework that helps us not just attack, but live out what Paul describes in Corinthians as a ministry that's been commanded of reconciliation with one another? This past Sunday in our sermon, we looked at Galatians chapter 4, 12 through 20. And we saw in the relationship that Paul had with the Galatian church, the expectation and the example of meeting the physical needs. Paul even commended the Galatian church for how well they loved him. But we also see Paul's intention now out of love and in relationship. Those are two very key ingredients. Paul is confronting them because of the error of how they are practicing their faith, and genuinely they are moving toward a path of heresy. And in love, his intention is to reconcile them or restore them to a healthy and biblical practice of faith. But this requires him to really call out their sin, to confront them where they're wrong, and to step into, in relationship, walking them toward truth. And this begs a question for us. There may be a tendency for some to assume then the responsibility to be the moral police for the world. And maybe that extreme reaction is why some people develop a bad taste in their mouth because, total strangers confront total strangers on what they're living and how they're living and what they're doing. And that genuinely doesn't go well. And certainly there is a principle of relationship, the context of relationship, the intention of love for the purpose of reconciliation, that I think is a good filter for us to see when it might be wise for us to be willing to step into confrontational type conversations. But then that still leaves the gap of what do we do? How do we navigate them? I'd love to recommend a book to you, Crucial Conversations, Tools for Talking When the Stakes Are High. Check it out on Amazon. It's been an extremely impactful book for me. But what that book would help you begin to understand is how we get into situations, but even more specifically, what are some steps, a framework, or an outline, if you would, on how you could have a conversation with someone to guide them through with shared meaning, shared purpose, and action steps that are healthy and wholesome. So I guess you can consider this video commentary today a little bit of a book endorsement to you. But I don't want to just leave us without any tools on, okay, if I'm supposed to, in love, with the intention of reconciliation, confront my brother or sister in Christ with correction, how do I do that well? That book might be helpful to you. And in fact, I'd love for you to check the book out, read it, and then after doing so, if you want to discuss what you learned from it, I'd love to hear from you. Be more than willing to have that conversation with you. Maybe we can share some ideas. Hope you're encouraged and challenged by that today. And until next time, God bless.